the recording. Hello, everybody. This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Welcome to Morning Mindset Cafe, where we've decided we're going to get a little silly and have a little fun and just enjoy the morning and go with the flow. We want to talk about failure and temporary defeat. What's the difference? And honestly, I think the difference is you just look at it and say, all right, let's see what else we can do and move on. That's not true, but oh, it's been an adventure this morning. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning. Yeah,
Mr. Gate Crasher, you.
It's almost like, how many things can we break? Let's find out.
Yeah, that's kind of what's happening here on this particular blab. But you know, it's really okay. Good morning, Susan.
Yeah,
it's good to see you. SJ, nice to see you too. Mm-hmm. Glad you're here. And then Ken making a big deal out of it. It's my 200 days on blab, a triumph of hope over experience. And I'm not quite sure how to take that one. We'll let that, we'll let that ruminate for a moment.
All right.
Let's get our mindset in the right direction. It's okay to be silly and fun, but it's also, I've got things that I'm going to need to do today, right? I've got projects I'm working on. I've had struggles all morning with tech. Was trying to edit a video and managed to, pretty much just muck it up so badly it was ridiculous. And then I tried to go to a video program that's supposed to be loaded on my computer. No. Mm-hmm. And then I tried to upload it someplace, and suddenly my internet connection went out. Literally, red bar, out. Doesn't exist. I'm like,
might be a worldwide thing, because this morning I was transferring footage to my computer from the GoPro that I have, and the GoPro was connected, but there were no clips on it. And then there were, and then I tried to transfer, and the progress bar went to 57%, and then went to 27 to 57, and 27 to 57. And then,
you got caught in the loop.
I pressed to play a clip from the GoPro, and the whole Final Cut program just shut off. It just went gone.
Yeah.
So, and then I plugged it back in. It was fine. I was like, okay.
Oh, it was fine. Well, see, mine wasn't fine.
Yeah.
I spent about 2 hours this morning working on one video. Trying to find the right program, got the right program, got the right video, then neither wanted to work with each other. Then I went elsewhere. I even went to YouTube and said, fine, I'll just edit you there. I just need a little chop off the front and chop off the back. Does YouTube want to cooperate? No cooperation there. So I come back, my program comes up like it's nothing. Hey, not a big deal. This is great. I put the video in and it says, wait a minute, your trial is over. You need to purchase. I'm like, oh no, I got the receipt. So what are we talking about today?
Like, between failure and temporary defeat, I think the phrase temporary defeat allows myself to sort of distance myself from failure, because a lot of people, like, the word failure to them can be very personal. Like, you're a failure. Like, that can be something that you identify with. And temporary defeat is sort of like, well, I guess my approach was wrong, so I can fix it and do better. Failure seems, I don't know, maybe failure seems like a more powerful word than more permanent than temporary defeat.
Yeah, you're right. There's much more power behind that word of failure. Now, whether it's applied to a project that failed or tech failed or something. Had it last night. Did a webinar, 5:00. Did anything want to work? Nope. No. I ended up, no. So I have a co-presenter who doesn't know squat. She can't do anything because she's co-presenting, so she doesn't have the controls. I've got a room full of people, and I say, you know what? You're not hitting my limit in the head. Here's a link to Zoom. Come on over. So I came on over. So, okay, this will work. So, but again, temporary defeat. Something didn't want to work.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. Even if it was me, I couldn't identify where I was the problem, but I could find a solution. Now that's not as big a deal as when you go into that failure of me personally having worked at something and it improved a skill and it falls flat,
Yeah.
or I give a presentation and I get flatline, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was thinking about the workshop I attended online. That they had like a Seth Godin workshop, and I went to it, and it had like it was like the first time Seth has ever done something online, and they used this, I can't remember what the program is called, but it's like an online group, and you have different rooms based off a topic. And there was like one room where it was just to post the prompts, and everybody kept replying to the prompts in the one tag. So Seth kept announcing, like, guys, this is the wrong module. Go into your individual rooms and discuss. This isn't that. But it just kept happening and happening and happening. But it was really successful. Like, I think there were like 300 people there, and they raised a lot of money for a company that's working to make online workshops and courses and technology to help people meet together, leaders meet together. But there you go.
So he could
an example
have
of stuff.
Yeah, and stuff not working, so you just give up. And why is that not a big deal? Why is it not a big deal? Why is it looked at as temporary defeat when it's something in tech or a tool we're using and not failure? What is it that we're attaching to it?
I don't know. I do think that we expect everything to go a specific way, and it never completely matches the way we expect it to go. And I think that's what we're talking about in the comments down here. Failure carries a certain stigma because it implies letting someone or something down and like not fulfilling the complete expectations. And reality doesn't fulfill our unreasonable expectations all the time. And that's just the way it is. There are going to be obstacles. Like, adversity makes sense because I guess it's the people that are successful go through those things. They don't stop just because there's something different that happens.
So when we view
stigma,
failure as a personal issue, when we view it as I failed, are there times when that's true?
I guess. I mean, I like to say that it's both. Like, it's personal and it's not personal at the same time. I like to say a lot of times, more often than not, it's your approach to something. It's not something that identifies who you are. That's just my perspective on it, because it's something you care about. But a lot of times, there's a really good post by Seth on the different variations of stupidity. Like, we like to label stupidity as a lot of different things. And a lot of times it's just a lack of awareness or a lack of information or your approach that causes it to fail, instead of like who you are yourself. I mean, it's like, I look at the failures that I've had, and more often than not, I don't look at it as a sense of who I am. Like, stupid is as stupid does. Stupid isn't who we are. It does depend on like our brain and stuff, but I've like one failure. I'm trying to think. When we had one of the leadership conferences, they had me take my Mac all the way to Syracuse to run the sessions, and we didn't have a compatible projector, so I had to rework the PowerPoints before the conference was starting, like a couple days before. And then we bought a little iMac piece that connected the iMac to an older software projector, and then it finally worked. And you can bet with me improvising like that, there were some failures that happened throughout the conference. Like, there were points where I was trying to like show on the projector this window, but it wasn't compatible with the Mac, so I had to drag it off screen to see it. And I was like, here's what you get. I mean, this is the video. I'm not going to be able to make it full screen, but this is as good as it gets.
And you go with it.
Yeah.
This is what I find interesting. So there was a time when making a mistake for me was equated directly to failure. That was in it. You're right, Matt. It's a very strong word. And I often would equate it as I am the failure because I had an emotional stake in the matter. Or I had built up something expectation or something around it, that it was vitally important. It was, so it became bigger than what it was or what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I've learned how to do, which I did not as a child, was how to learn from failure, how to learn from mistakes. And Napoleon Hill equates failed with mistake. And the more that I've read and listened to you and others and experiences and viewpoints and perspectives and how to learn from mistakes and improve, today it's really interesting. I equate failure with mechanical or tech or a tool. I don't equate it with a person. It's a very different way to look at it for me. That I've been, and I've noticed this of myself over the past months, is that it really is the way I'm looking at it as, well, you made a mistake. I'm not even saying in my own head, well, you failed. I mean, I'm just saying that Napoleon Hill equates those two words together, failed, mistake. Failed is a stronger word to me, but I always associated it with the person and the tool. And now it's interesting that I'm only associating it with the tool. So now temporary defeat is the mistakes. Temporary defeat to me is that, well, that didn't work. Or how badly do I want it to try to learn from it and go on? How badly do I want to succeed at something, which will determine whether or not I'm going to work through the embarrassment or the humiliation or the disappointment or the tears sometimes because of the frustration. How badly do I want it? And if I make a mistake along the way, I have to be able to look at it with an honest assessment to determine, so what am I going to do from this point? What do you think?
Yeah, the hard work that you're willing to put in. Another point that I think about is we have to accept where we are and sort of the work that needs to be done. And a lot of times when people do things for the first time, they expect it to go easy. They expect it just to go perfectly and smoothly. And when you're doing something for the first time, there's that feeling of, I really don't know anything. And I may do this for the first time and make myself look like a complete fool when I do it. And that feeling of stupidity and knowing that you don't know anything from the start, that's a lot of emotional labor to go through. Like when I first went skiing with my dad for the first time, I saw people that were 6 and 7 years old that were whizzing by me, and I'm frozen in there on my skis. Fell down a few times.
You were doing the bunny
learning the
snowplow,
French fry pizza method, and I got the hang of it. I started to get the hang of it. Now that was the first time I went, so I'm nothing like the 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, 10-year-olds that have gone dozens of times.
Sure,
but I think when we fail, we do tend to associate ourselves with that permanence, with that feeling stupid, that emotional labor that comes behind.
Well, it's because we're the one putting forth the effort, right? I mean, really.
Exactly.
I'm the one expending the energy, really, and then to do it publicly. The ones, well, that's what I mean by embarrassment and humiliation. Yeah. I am stunned, pleasantly stunned, by, I want to use the audacity and boldness of some people who are able to take a public response because something didn't work, something failed. Because in our country, a lot of times the big tech stuff, I mean, look at, Elon Musk, look at Richard Branson, look at these guys and the gals in the background they're not as public as some of the male failures that we're seeing in tech or in new industries or in new products. And they shake it off. And it's their viewpoint is so very different. because so many people say you failed, and they obviously aren't saying that. They're obviously saying, oh, heck, look at all I learned from that. Let's try this. I'm stunned, and I love it because it's something that I'm not very good at, the public stuff. But to be able to have that much,
it's easy to compare. To compare yourself to others too, because you're at a completely different point in your journey in terms of learning things.
Right.
And
it is.
And then
so
at the same time, we don't need to do that, because the important work is the work we're doing ourselves to learn and grow. And we can do that all day. We can compare all day and not get anywhere. There's always going to be somebody like better than you in this and better than you than that, it feels like.
Yeah, there was a group of us talking about this, something similar to this, yesterday. It was, I'm sorry. Yes, it was yesterday during one of my mastermind groups. We met yesterday, and somebody was bringing up that they're starting to compare themselves to a few in the room, and the look on the faces was, why would you do that? You're in a completely different industry. You're not going to have the results that I have. What's going on? And that's part of the mastermind group, is the stop you in your tracks. It really is. Wait, no. And it's not me that's doing it, right? I just facilitate it, make sure the discussion stays on track. It was the other members came back and said, no. Where are you going? Why are you doing this? And the person was trying to say, well, because get out of the tech. Get out of the tech. Why are you doing this? Why are you deciding? This was what was interesting, because somebody in the room said, if you don't want to move forward with your project, do that based on you don't want to, not on the excuse that you're not as good as somebody else. And you talk about, you could feel it through the room, and we're virtual, but you could feel it like, wow, nailed it. And the member was, so appreciative. It took a minute to sink in, and you could see the response was, holy moly, you're absolutely right. I'm getting nervous. I'm panicking. I'm at that stage in the project where I could fail. Do I move forward? Or do I suck it up and just keep going? So
and
it was
interesting. It might not work. It might work, and it might not work. Is it still worth doing, even though it might not work? Of course.
Yeah, because we can learn something from it.
Exactly. Fascinating.
Love this, because I'm going to be tackling video again after this plan. Then I have a team meeting. Then I have another team meeting. And then I just may have to tackle the video again because it's not going to get me. It's just not going to do it, right? Tech, you're just messing with me today.
Yeah, it's just building you up. It's providing opportunities to challenge you. Why has failure occurred? Yeah. The important thing about failure is the learning behind it. And a lot of times I think it's just a lack of awareness about certain things or certain information, or there's just something that has occurred that we were unaware of, either with ourselves and how we see, or and we have limitations.
We do.
We can't remember everything. We can't remember everything up here. This tool has limitations. It does.
Really? Where'd you get that?
Yeah.
No, seriously, your brain does not have limitations. Your capacity to use it, maybe, but you.
We can't remember every piece of information. I believe that. I believe that. So, this is a tool. I see this thing as a tool because we can use it well, or it can use us. Like, you can read the newspaper, or the newspaper.
All right, so we can use it as a tool. I'll go with that. We can use it as a tool. It's so much more than that. So I'm just going to throw out that, yes, we can use it as a tool. Now, where Ken is going is talking about software development is all about debugging. Absolutely. You have to create something and then debug from there.
Yeah, there are
So we
emotions
don't want to
attached
talk
to
about
it.
No, we don't
There are
want,
always
no.
emotions.
No, we're not going to talk emotions. See,
Well, that's the
you
thing.
take emotions out and it's no big deal, right?
Well,
Wouldn't that be
it's
great?
more than just a tool. It's got emotion behind it. I'll
Yeah,
argue.
it does.
All right,
Well, where I was
I
going
have
to go was that when, and that's where I was going to go actually, and I didn't realize that. So why can't we just look at the mistake, the failure, as I would with a piece of software or a piece of equipment that we're troubleshooting? I used to troubleshoot equipment. I was like a high-tech mechanic. And so I'd look at software first. Coding was fine. Okay, let's go to the machine itself and start the troubleshooting process and the what if, right? So why can't I do that with the projects I'm working on that are failing or the attempt I do? And it's all emotion, isn't it? It's all emotion.
Because numbers can only do so much. Numbers and tech can only do so much. All right, I have to hop out and let somebody else hop in here.
Thank you, Matt. It's been delightful.
Always fun.
Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday.
Yes. Yeah, anybody want to jump in and pick up the conversation and discussion about failure and temporary defeat? And gosh darn, can't treat it just like a piece of equipment, right? Guys, we have the half face again. Hey, Brian.
Hey. Well, this morning you could have called it a failure getting started.
I could have given up.
It was pretty funny, actually.
Yeah. Bouncing in it. Wow. Crazy. Crazy. So, but that's tech. There isn't, when it fails, there isn't emotion attached to it failing. There's emotion attached to my commitment to using it because it's annoying me, because it's not doing what it's supposed to do, or it's not meeting my expectation. Now, the big deal is that managing my emotions when it is personal. It is personal, Ken. It is. When I have put a lot of time and effort into creating something, when I have put a lot of time and effort into creating something, there's great emotion attached to it, but I can still look at it as temporary defeat. I can look at the end result is that it failed the expectations. I mean, I can detach enough to say that it's not me who is the failure. I can learn from this. And I think it happens with relationships, communications, with, working with people, places, and things, that I can learn to look at it as it's not me who is the failure. But because the emotion is attached, I have to have that moment to feel the emotion. I can't just block it and not experience it. I think it's important. What do you think, Brian?
Well, this kind of hits the nail on the head. I guess self-defeat would be the word. I was just told last night that my part-time job wasn't going to be able to pay me.
Okay.
That means I'm not going to be able to pay rent. That means I'm not going to be. So I'm sitting here wondering what I'm going to do. And is the failure mine? No.
Well, obviously not. Yeah, but you have to deal with it. Yes, you have to deal with the consequences of other things happening.
Yeah, and I could lose everything.
Uh-huh.
The little tiny bit that I do have, I could lose it all. And it's, I've been trying to come up with $300.
Uh-huh.
Just $300, and it's like pulling teeth. even through loans, even through whatever. I can't get it. Is it my failure? Or is it circumstantial? Or is it protection? Is what I believe protecting me because they don't want me to fail? You know, what am I? Where am
Well, honestly, and I'm not kidding here, I don't think it matters. I don't think the underlying at this point matters as much as identifying that you need to make $300. You need to make it, earn it, find it, sell something, have somebody give it to you, loan it, whatever. You need $300 in your hand. Yep. How you got here, this is one of those things that honestly I look back and say, now I can learn from it. But at the moment, got to do what needs to be done.
And I am.
Yeah, I know you are. I know you are.
I can't do anything else.
That's why I'm articulating it, is that that's where we take it. That sometimes it's just not, it's not important.
You know,
I don't think it's important to say at the moment, how did I get here? Sometimes when it's dire straits. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, anybody. I agree with you.
No. You know, anybody else, correct me if you see it differently, please. Or not correct me as much as share your viewpoint if you see it differently. And I only say that because when I am in, because Brian, you know, I've been there, that experience of, again, here we go again, crap. All right, what do I have to do? What needs to be done next? That's all that happens. And then I can look back and then I can say, these are the steps that led to where I got to and what I could have done differently. Now that I have more information and can see it more clearly, you know, hindsight's 20/20, right? So that's where I can learn. I can't berate myself that I didn't make decisions or do things along the way, because obviously I only do things according to what makes sense to me at the time and the information available at the time.
It's scary. It's really interesting that as hard as I try, and I try hard, that it never works out.
Ken is saying sometimes you have to embrace the failure and not fight it. If you fight it, you won't learn from it. If you fight it, you'll blame other people, equipment, etc., and you won't take responsibility for finding a way forward. Right, and that's another way to articulate what I was talking about, is that if I'm fighting it, if I'm trying to figure it out while in the moment, what the heck's happening, you know, how, instead of looking for how do I go from here to here, instead looking back, trying to figure out now, is this a failure, temporary defeat? What is it? Well, you can call it whatever you want to. You need $300. You need to find a project that's going to pay you $300. You know, start thinking creatively. Go invest in something and resell it. You know, I know a lot of people that do that.
Yep, it's amazing to me. So this topic really kind of hits home.
It does. It hits at the moment. Yeah, and I'm sorry you have to have that. Sorry you're experiencing it.
It is what it is. You can't change it. So it's there for a reason. But I've had failures in the past, but I've never had consistent, ongoing defeat.
Yeah. Where it feels like it's one thing right after the other, right after the other. The piling on rather than having a break in between.
Yep.
So Matt is saying mistakes are like ice. If we resist them, we slip up. If we glide through them and adapt, we learn well. Oh, Matt.
Ice melts. Please let it melt.
Yeah, if we just wait it out, it'll melt and then we can walk right on, right? Well, there's the problem though. We have to always be in action. We always have to be moving, right? You're either moving forward or moving backward, never standing still. It feels like we're standing still, but when we're not actually consciously moving forward. We really are going backward, even if it's little incremental steps, little steps.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it for me. When I feel like I'm just taking a break and not doing anything, I really am sliding back slightly. Most of the time, it's not harmful. Most of the time. So, those who have any ideas for Brian, feel free to share with on Twitter or in the chat or something. And yes, Susan, sometimes 5 minutes at a time is what works just to get through and to get by. All right, so I think I know who this is. I am letting in a logo. Oh no.
I think you know that logo though.
I know the logo. That's why I'm letting it in. Yeah. Well, there you are.
And there he is.
Oh my word. What the boy did you gussy up for us today?
Yeah, I'm working out the setup again. So that's why I have
Nice.
both of my labs open, because this one, it worked well. What was this, Wednesday? It worked very well. And then it just turned off. So I have a backup in case that happens. And we'll see how it works.
There's slight white noise as you're speaking in. So if there's an adjustment you can make to the levels of output.
I don't know what to do about that right now.
Okay, just thought you might want to know. Welcome, Will. Good to have you here.
I did. And so let's see, there's no feedback. Okay, anyway, I'll come back and tweak it later.
All right. Yeah, that's fine.
But no, this is an interesting topic. I've been looking into it today and yesterday. And one of the things that I appreciated that Napoleon Hill put in, so there's actually a chapter on this subject.
Yes, there is.
The law of success. Mm-hmm. And so he talks about the difference between the two, meaning, so I'll just get straight to the point. So the point, the way I see it is there's no such thing as failure. It's just, especially when it's a big thing, like a real life altering thing, it's more like in my words, a divine redirection, meaning that, okay, you're going this way, and it may be in your best interest to go in another direction. And so serendipity or providence moves and it makes that happen. And a lot of times we feel like it's all our fault, and that there's something wrong with us when this happens.
Right.
But it's actually,
again, that emotion
in the long term, it's for our growth. Mm-hmm. If you look at life like a school, I like the way Napoleon Hill says it. He says the main object of this lesson is to help the student understand and profit by the dumb language, the dumb language that defeat talks to us in, meaning that we don't understand the language, because it's life, and so we're used to getting lessons in a more, in a book or by a teacher, but life's lessons come in a language that a lot of us aren't able to interpret. Mm-hmm. And especially in Brian's situation, it's even harder to do it in the moment. It's a whole lot easier to look back, and see when things have happened and understand, the hindsight is 20/20.
A whole lot less emotion attached.
It's easier with 20/20 vision.
And so, in my experience, I think you're right on, Charlene. In the moment, you just have to do what you got to do, and what worked for me is I can get real determined. So I can get really focused really determined, really when I need to, you know. And it's interesting because I kind of woke up that way this morning, and I was trying to decipher my emotion, right?
Mhm.
What is going on? And I won't get into the long end of it, but the conclusion was I'm really working on bringing a lot of things into reality, you know, business ventures and partnerships, and I'm taking a lead on a lot of things, and that's the reason for this need of energy, you know. And my intuition guided me saying that the reason that you're getting this at this time is because you can handle it. You know, you know how to handle it, and it kind of guided me through my memories of when I'd done this before. And the reason I'm going on like this, Brian, is actually it is for you, because there are times that it was a whole lot like my real life situation was a whole lot more harder than it is now. And it was the same kind of energy that that came to me then, you know, as far as so I'll just, you know, what it may feel like anger, you know, or, you know, a little bit of, but it's a passionate energy, right? Like you need to do things. It's kind of connected to the earth, you know, it's kind of connected to your root chakra, your survival, you know. And so the reason I'm saying that is because it's something that I can handle without going in an angry. It's not anger is what I'm saying. It's just connected to there. It's connected to that that motivation, kind of like a warrior, you know. And so there comes a time like, and I think that's what Charlene was kind of describing. Like, it doesn't really matter. I just got to do what I got to do. And as you do that, you get results, you know, because you're really focused on one result and clear action that moves you towards that result until it happens. And so you're able to let go of a lot of things, you know, which in hindsight you'll learn the lesson that weren't really that important. So will raising school is interesting. That's the arena where failure was public and led to ridicule in times past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Hi, Cindy.
Hello.
Good stuff. How are you this morning, dear?
Good. I'm out of sequence. I haven't done my stretches yet, and I got a bird caught in the stove flue out there, the wood's burning stove. So the dogs are going crazy. It's like, but I thought I'd hop on. It's Friday. I haven't been on in a little while. So, and this is one of those subjects that I don't know of anybody that this subject hasn't affected, you know, in some strong emotional form, because failure can be such an emotionally charged word. And talking about school, oh my God, if I got a B, you know, it was failure. And at one point in college, I decided to switch to an engineering program, and I was getting C's and D's, and I got an F on something, and I couldn't take it. I had to get out of the engineering program, and now my sons are in it. My older son is in it right now. My younger one's going into it next year. And what the stories he's telling me and what the kids go through with the engineering program is extremely difficult. Mm-hmm. And so to get a C in a class is like success. It's like awesome, you know. So it's like I was just way too hard. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're a brainiac when it comes to that stuff.
No, but the engineering that I took, yes.
Yeah. So failure. It's something I've been struggling with a lot in the last 2 years, but I'm in the last, say, 6 months to a year, I'm moving over to what Will is talking about, and that is that you've got to take it as something positive. It's an indication you're moving forward. If you're not failing, you're not moving forward, because you can't move forward without making mistakes. And one of the things I've had to do is take the emotional charge out of the word. You know, call it something else, because failure, the word itself can have so much emotional attachment to it that it freaks you out. And but it's not. It means success. It means moving forward. And you're not going to have success without failure. It's just a stepping stone. So it's
good point. Which is, we could always just call it temporary defeat.
Exactly.
It's temporary, which immediately puts it on the plane of, oh, that means it's not going to last. All right.
Mm-hmm.
How do I make sure it's temporary? How can I focus my attention on, is there something I can learn from this, or is there something I need to be doing to get out of this, right?
Yeah, and I like, is it Ken? Is that Maven UK? Is Ken? That perhaps it's not failure, but the fear of failure. And there's a lot of fear involved in that. And so I think he has a really good point.
See, that's where I was coming from with there's a lot of emotion attached because I'm putting forth a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of being challenged along the way to get something launched. You know, I've got, on March 17th, I'm launching a series of live workshops. Did a webinar yesterday. It was going to happen, dang it. We had so many tech issues, it was ridiculous. Well, fine. It's going to happen. And it did. It wasn't the ideal situation, but it had to happen. It had to, right? And that was the requirement. It had to happen. So it did. Small, I know, but honestly, there are many I see who do something as simple as a webinar, and then they just say, well, okay, we're going to have to do this again. We'll invite you back when we get this taken care of. No, I had a backup. You know, and if you have a backup, you put the backup to use. It has to happen because of timelines. You know, can't keep putting off. And the other things that are happening, I've got another one that's launching on Saturday. Got another one that I'm involved in that should launch in about 2 weeks. So all of that, hey, you know, bumping up against walls, challenges all the time. Most of it's tech. But again, there's a lot of effort and time in there. And I'm going to tell you that there's a wee bit of anxiety that what if nobody signs up?
Oh, yeah.
What if we just put forth all of this effort and it flops?
Yep.
So let's do what we can to not have that happen. Hence the importance of having the webinar and all that it entails. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, what I always told myself when I did a webinar was, even if I get nobody to show up, so I prepared myself for nobody to show up, I still have a YouTube video that I can promote that will get traffic indefinitely.
There you go.
And that you can link to, that you can use for all kinds of stuff. So you've still got something of value. So that's how I got through that part, because, you know, I've had them where people have tried to get on and then they couldn't. You know, there's always technical difficulties.
Our thing was we had a full room. That was the joy of it. Oh my gosh, I finally have a full room in a webinar, and you're going to fail me? You are not going to fail me. I mean, that was the thing with me. It kept going through my head. I didn't say it to the attendees, but it's like, holy crap, I got a full room. Let's go. You know, we are going to do that. So it would have been different had it been just one or two people. It wouldn't have been quite as urgent, but I still would have done the other. Because people showed up.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So again, perspective, right?
Yeah.
That's not nearly as big a deal as, and that I think that's what we have to look at, is that is tech issues tools. Is that as big a deal as I need to put food on the table or keep the roof over my head?
Yeah, perspective.
There's perspective, plus there's level of intensity of what we're going to put behind the activity to keep moving forward, maybe.
I think it's intensity. However, the resolutions, the ability is the same. So, like in your circumstance, you had to redirect, you know, your efforts in another direction, and you were able to come up with success. And in the same way, if you're faced with a more dire thing, you still have to redirect your efforts, you know. And so that's why, you know, I was putting together the ideas that Ken and I'm gonna get it wrong if I don't say it. Okay, Susan. I knew it was Susan, but anyway, I just wanted to check. But putting together the ideas that Ken and Susan are sharing about a fear and improvisation, right? So if you're doing one thing one way and it's not working, in an improvisation,
So
you got to
adapt.
change it quickly.
Right.
Just like in your circumstance, Charlene, you're live. I got people here. I got to do something quickly, and you got to do something different, right? But it's happening so fast that it doesn't give fear a lot of time to jump up, or you use that fear energy to take action, right? And it's the same thing in any other circumstance. I don't have the money for rent. I got to get the money for rent. I got to do something. You got to do something different, because what you're doing, if it was going to get you what you needed,
Right.
it would have done it by now, so do something different. I think, and the piece I think about fear is we don't see the other way, the different way, is because we're afraid of that way. And so it kind of pushes us past that barrier. And that's why I like to call it a bit of a divine shove, because, hey, there's another way that you need to go, but you're not seeing it because you're afraid of it, so to speak,
So there's
but you
another
still
use
got to
for
do
angels.
it, and so
angels can
things
nudge
just-
us, huh? Another use for angels.
Oh, most definitely.
I only say that because Freckles, that's where the angels kissed me, right? Big booming thunder, the angels are bowling.
Mhm.
Now you feel that move forward, it's the angels giving you a nudge. I love that.
One of the things Will said was triggered something else in my head here is you've got to take the fear and shift it to something else. And if you can shift it to your passion or shift it, it's a mindset shift. If you can shift the fear, and I haven't been real successful at this, but I've heard this before and tried to use it. Shift the fear to something positive, for you, passion, excitement, the positive things about what you're doing, so that instead of it being so soaked in fear, it becomes something that's positive in your mind.
Yeah.
And I love, that you're dead on, Cindy. And you got to take it. And the thing about it is, I feel like the fear is your energy, and so you can use it however you want, right? And what I wanted to add to that is, all of our feelings are valid, right? And they're useful. The reason I'm saying that is because sometimes you can't go from fear to, happy love. Sometimes you got to go from fear to anger, then you can start to move it up to, the where you need to go. But sometimes, especially when you're in a survival mode, you got to use that energy however you can use it. And so that's what I think a lot of times people get caught up, because they're like, oh man, why can't I just get into this peace and love place, but you're in a place where you have to fight, and so I think sometimes you got to use that energy for what it's for, and push through the fear, because so if you just think about it in a real physical way, if you're in danger, or if your child is in danger and it's something that you're usually afraid of, you will see a mother switch that fear to anger and the ability to fight really fast if she can't run. And so, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a natural instinct, and it's a natural way to use that energy, so in the same way, the way I see the emotion is sometimes you have to go through that, through a little bit of anger, or through what we like to call it passion, sometimes to move up the scale to more positive feelings, but it is useful to push through that fear. And
you make a really good point, because there's a training out there called Train Your Brain. And one of the things that she teaches, and I can't remember the stages off the top of my head, but when you're in a certain emotional state, there's steps, and they give the names of it, because you can't just go, like you say, from fear to exuberant happiness. There's emotional steps to go through, and then if you can just get yourself to go up one step, accomplished a lot, and then you work on the next step and you work yourself out of that negative emotion. So yeah, there is a staging to it.
But it can go pretty quick.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you get me in the right circumstance, like Will just described, and we've talked about that before, where we can change our state as quickly as it needs to be, and often it's in response to something on the outside, an outside stimulus that says I need to respond or react. It's going to happen now. I can go from fear to active anger or aggression, if need be. It's possible, but it's pretty intense when that happens. What we're talking about, and you're talking about those stages when we're kind of looking at where do I want to go from here to here, and it may take an hour, it may take a day or two, it needs to take a little time. When something like that, am I right?
Yeah, if you're stuck, then this is the way to help yourself work through it. Versus where like what you're talking about, which is very valid and it can happen, is if something happens that shifts or helps you shift tremendously. And you're right, the choice is in our brain. That's why for somebody who can't do that, like make yourself, like I like to play the happy song, and just to get me in that mood. But and that can do a major shift. But, if you're working through it, you can say, okay, I've gone from this to this, and I've accomplished something that's positive, and pat yourself on the back. And, so it's a way to get out of it if you're stuck.
And Cindy, you mentioned a key point about the different emotions and moving through them. And I think it can happen fast or slow, and I think the more aware of it you are, the better ability you have to move through it quickly. So now that I understand this is how it works, or this is how I work, I don't stay in anger long, because to me, this is how I see it. So basically, you got emotions that are kind of compressive, or and expressive, going outwards, and so a lot of times people get caught in depression and apathy, which is under anger, right? And so it's kind of like they're just compressing deeper and deeper into themselves, and they're not moving, and so it causes stagnation, right? And so that's under anger. So to get fed up of feeling like that and feeling closed in, and start to get angry about it, it turns the direction of your it starts to get you moving, right? It gets you pushing through that cloud, so to speak. And once you push through it, move to the next emotion. Don't keep holding on to the anger, and because you're going to be unproductive in what you're doing. You got to work, you got to do things, right? But at least you got yourself moving. You got yourself out the door. You got yourself dressed and shaved. Like I can't live like this anymore. I got to do something, right? And so you got yourself moving, and now you switch it to okay, that's like, Ken's talking about, like the bargaining. Okay, let me use my mental capacity. How can I actually, make a change here, right? And keep that energy moving until you're able to elevate it to where you need to go. And so, I think it's a natural progression. And as you get to practice it, you get to know yourself. You'll move through it really fast. Like a lot of times I'll be like, man, what's going on? This thing is not working. I really want it to work, and like Charlene said, you could, a lot of times it don't mainly last for a couple seconds, as far as the anger phase of it, but then because it gets the energy moving. And I think that's, to me, is like the practical aspect of that emotion.
Definitely well said. So we're at the top of the hour. Brian, when I finish the sign off, can you stop the recording for us? I'll be happy to stay here for, I think we can stay for not quite an hour. Do we have a 10 o'clock? Will, do you have a 10 o'clock blab that you want us to attend?
We're going to go for the team meeting.
So I can stay for a half hour, 40 minutes. I'm going to need 10 to 15 minutes of prep time for the team meeting that I have going on. So I want to thank everybody who's joined me in the live stream and those of you in the comment section adding to this discussion for today for Morning Mindset Cafe. Thank you so much. Those watching the replay, thanks for hanging with us to this point. Appreciate you doing that. This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Let's move forward with the day on purpose, with purpose, to grow our hearts, grow our minds, and grow our businesses. Until next time, have a great day.